Yo les gars, aujourd'hui petite vidéo, je teste un jeu d'horreur, je crois. Normalement c'est un jeu d'horreur. On met des textes, voilà. Vérifier. Commencer. Dans un lieu occulté, l'intrigue.
I am writing this under an appreciable mental strain, since by tonight I shall be no more.
Ouais, coucou.
Penniless, and at the end of my supply of the drug which alone makes life endurable, I can bear the torture no longer, and shall cast myself from this garret window into the squalid street below. Do not think from my slavery to morphine that I am a weakling or a degenerate. When you have read these hastily scrawled pages, you may guess, though never fully realize, why it is that I must have forgetfulness. It was in one of the most open and least frequented parts of the broad Pacific that the packet...
Merde, j'ai passé.
The Great War was then at its very beginning, and the ocean forces of the Hun had not completely sunk to their later degradation. So that our vessel was made a legitimate prize, whilst we of her crew were treated with all the fairness and consideration due us as naval prisoners.
Ouais.
So liberal, indeed, was the discipline of our captors, that
Ouais. C'est quand qu'on peut jouer nous?
when I finally found myself adrift and free, I had but little idea of my surroundings. Never a competent navigator, I could only guess vaguely by the sun and stars that I was somewhat south of the equator.
Ouais, équateur.
Of the longitude, I knew nothing, and no island or
Était en vue.
The weather kept fair, and for uncounted days I drifted aimlessly beneath the scorching sun, waiting either for sun. But neither ship nor land appeared, and I began to despair in my solitude upon the heaving vastness of unbroken.
Il parle trop, j'ai
The change happened whilst I slept. Its details I shall never know. For my slumber, though troubled and dream-infested, when at last I awoke, it was to discover myself half sucked into a slimy expanse of hellish black mire, which extended about me in monotonous undulations as far as I could see, and in which my boat lay grounded some distance away. Though one might well imagine that my first sensation would be of wonder at so prodigious and unexpected a transformation, for there was in the air and in the rotting soil a sinister quality which the region was putrid with the carcasses of decaying fish, and of other, less describable things which I saw protruding from the nasty mud of the unending plain. Perhaps I should not hope to convey in mere words the unutterable hideousness that can dwell in absolute silence and barren immensity. There was nothing within hearing and nothing in sight save a vast reach of black slime. Yet the very completeness of the stillness and the homogeneity of the landscape oppressed me with a nauseating fear. The sun was blazing down from a sky which seemed to me almost black in its cloudless cruelty, as though reflecting the inky marsh beneath my feet.
Ouais. Toujours pas avancer. Bizarre le bruit, hein. Vraiment
As
bizarre.
I crawled into the stranded boat, I realized that only one theory could explain my position. Through some unprecedented volcanic upheaval, a portion of the ocean floor must have been thrown to the surface, exposing regions for which innumerable millions of years had lain hidden under. So great was the extent of the new land which had risen beneath me that I could not detect the faintest noise of the surging ocean, straining my ears as I might. Nor were there any seafowl to prey upon the dead things.
Je peux toujours pas avancer, c'est super.
For several hours I sat thinking or brooding in the boat, which lay upon its side and afforded a slight shade as the sun moved across the heavens. As the day progressed, the ground lost some of its stickiness and seemed likely to dry sufficiently for traveling purposes in a short time.
Ouais.
That night I slept but little, and the next day I made for myself a pack containing food and water, preparatory to an overland journey in search of the vanished sea and possible rescue.
Ouais. Je peux toujours pas.
On the third morning, I found the soil dry enough to walk upon with ease. The odor of the fish was maddening, but I was too much concerned with graver things to mind so slight an evil, and set out boldly for an unknown goal. All day I forged steadily westward, guided by a faraway hummock which rose higher than any other elevation on the rolling desert. That night I encamped, and on the following day still travelled toward the hummock, though that object seemed scarcely nearer than when I had first espied it. By the fourth evening, I attained the base of the mound, which turned out to be much higher than it had appeared from a distance. An intervening valley setting it out in sharper relief from the general surface. Too weary to ascend, I slept in the shadow of the hill. I know not why my dreams were so wild that night, but ere the waning and fantastically gibbous moon had risen far above the eastern plain, I was awake in a cold perspiration, determined to sleep no more. Such visions as I had experienced were too much for me to endure again. And in the glow of the moon I saw how unwise I had been to travel by day. Without the glare of the parching sun, my journey would have cost me less energy.
C'est quand que je vais jouer là? Je me fais chier.
Indeed, I now felt quite able to perform, picking up.
Je peux toujours pas.
But
Allez.
whose black crease, I felt myself on the edge, peering over the rim into a fathomless chaos of eternal night. Through and of as the ledges and outcroppings of rock afforded fairly easy whilst
C'est une fichue. Jouer.
urged on by an impulse which I cannot definitely, gazing all at an object that
C'est long.
that it was mere, but I was a close. For despite its enormous magnitude, I perceive whose days. The moon, now near the and river across on whose the writing was in a system of several characters obviously represented marine things which are unknown to the mob, but whose it was the pictorial.
C'est bas de long. Oh, nouveau truc. D'accord.
Plainly visible across the intervening water on account of their enormous size. I think that the creatures were shown disporting like fishes in the waters of or paying homage of their fate for them, grotesque beyond the imagination of a Poe or a Bulwer.
J'ai fini de lire, mais...
They were damnably glad, curious, for one of the creatures was shown in the act of killing a whale, represented as but little larger than himself. I remarked, but in a moment, some awestruck at this then, with only a slight churning to mark its rise to the surface, the thing slid into view above the dark waters. Loathsome, it darted like a stupendous monster of nightmares to the marlin, about which it flung its gigantic scaly arms, while it bowed its hideous head and gave vent to certain measured sounds.
Âme sensible, s'abstenir.
I went mad then. Of my frantic ascent of the slope and cliff, and of my delirious journey back to the stranded boat, I remember little. I believe I sang a great deal and laughed oddly. Distinct recollections of a great storm sometime after I reached the boat. At any rate, I know that I heard pearls of thunder and other tones which nature utters only in her wildest moods.
Et c'est quand que je peux jouer? Parce qu'on va pas faire des clics-clics, c'est tout.
When I came out of the shadows, I was in the San Francisco hospital. Brought thither by the captain of the American ship which had picked up my boat in mid-ocean. In my delirium, I had said much, but found that my words had been given scant attention. Of any land upheaval in the Pacific, my rescuers knew, nor did I deem it necessary to insist upon a thing which I knew they could not believe.
Mais je voulais faire tout
Once
ça.
I sought out a celebrated ethnologist and amused him with peculiar questions regarding the ancient Philistine legend of Dagon. But soon perceived.
Tout là-bas.
is at night, especially when the moon is gibbous and waning, that I see the thing. I tried morphine, but the drug has given only transient surcease and has drawn me. So now I am to end it all, having written a full account for the information or the contemptuous amusement of my fellow men. Often I ask myself if it could not all have been a pure phantasm, a mere freak of fever as I lay sun-stricken and raving in the open boat after my escape from the German man-of-war. This I ask myself, but ever does there come before me a hideously vivid vision. I cannot think of the deep sea without shuddering at the nameless things that may at this very moment be crawling and floundering on its slimy bed, worshipping their ancient stone idols and carving their own detestable likenesses on submarine obelisks of water-soaked granite. I dream of a day when they may rise above the billows to drag down into their reeking talons the remnants of puny, war-exhausted mankind. Of a day when the land shall sink and the dark ocean shall ascend amidst universal pandemonium. At the door, as of some immense slippery body lumbering against it. It shall not find me. God, that hand! The window! The window!
Toujours plus. Quoi? C'était juste ça? Mais... nous serons comme ça pour un moment pour évaluer nos autres jeux intéressés. Bah... voilà. C'était pas fou. On veut rien faire.
And scary stories have been accompanying men for centuries. They have many faces and forms. But what is their purpose? Why do we enjoy being afraid so much? During our therapy, I'll try to
Bah ça pue la merde. Ça poursuivre.
I hear a noise at the door, as of... It shall not find me.
Attendez les gars, je crois que je me suis fait feinter.
God, that hand! The window! The window!
C'est juste ça. Je le revois beaucoup, mais voilà, c'est nul. Bref, j'espère que cela vous aura plu. N'hésitez pas à vous abonner pour les nouveaux, à liker. Ça fera extrêmement plaisir. Et voilà, je vous laisse sur ça. Allez, ciao!